globalization and its impact on culture. ये broader theme है. Now, when I talk about culture, culture के elements are religion, culture elements are song, art forms like paintings, even literature. Culture also will include elements of some belief systems. Religion or belief same चीज नहीं है. Religion is somewhere the institutionalized beliefs जो हैं, your God, your temple, your church, your prayers, ये religion है. The belief systems are our deep thoughts. हमारे value systems जो हैं. Value systems are belief systems. When I say art forms, I'm talking about songs, drama, dance. We're talking about movies, okay, our scripts of the movies. So how does globalization impact our culture? Now, isme any question, it's like a thumb rule to all of you. Any question you asked on culture, agar culture pe koi sawal puchega aapko, make sure you write about how culture is an element of environment and man interaction. And this environment is not always natural one. It also includes the man-made environment. So hum baat karenge in the context of infrastructure. We'll talk in the context of technology as environment. We'll talk in the context of global conflicts. Ye bhi environment hai. Environment is also our economic systems, our job cultures. Ye bhi aapka environment hai. Okay, so culture is a product of man-environment relationship. ठीक है, so when you have globalization, आप globalization को इससे लिखोगे आप. How globalization includes infrastructure, globalization is about technology, globalization somewhere conflicts हैं, the trade aspects हैं. So these are the man-made elements. Okay, and you have one element of discussion here. Okay. The second aspect, आप जब culture की बात कर रहे हैं, okay, you will talk about what are the elements of new thinking. Elements of new thinking. Rights की बात है. What is right? What is wrong? Okay. We'll talk in the context of what do we mean by ये जो context of thinking in terms of equality versus equality, inequality versus equality. ये भी part of your thinking aspects हैं. Gender rights, ये भी aspect part है. Okay, our thinking, thoughts around life and development. So think of the traditional notions of life. क्या था हमारा? Life is circular, life is karma, life is related to our actions. But somewhere globalizations में वो जो circular element है, that's compromised. Life is seen as linear. Life is seen as, okay, birth to death and culmination. Okay, the traditional thinking of development was emancipation. Okay, it's about renunciation. It's about sacrifice. So एक notion है. Okay, though जैसे कि your brahmacharya stage and your vanaprastha stage, okay, वो एक traditional thinking था. But the modern thinking of development is around, somewhere it's about material, somewhere it's about economic. आप वो लेके आएंगे. I'm just hinting the formats here. When I say culture, so culture आप discuss करेंगे from the man-environment element. So environment का क्या-क्या part है, and let's say globalization is doing this. Second, culture का element है what we are thinking, man and our thinking. Thinking about rights, किसका अधिकार है, किसका अधिकार नहीं है. Equality and equality issues, inequality and equality issues, gender rights and so on. The third element is we'll talk about the culture का spread कैसे होता है. Okay, how in the recent times the culture spread in terms of contagion. The culture spread, okay, in terms of okay, your hierarchy effect. Culture spread as a consequence of translocation. How does culture spread? Culture spreads एक तरीका है contagion effect. as in by touch, as in what's also called as the neighborhood effect. You are near something and you start getting impacted. Contagion effect. Second is hierarchy. Hierarchy is some power, some force telling you what to do. Some influencer telling you what to do. So think about hierarchy aspects. कि जैसे our the YouTubers and the thought influencers, and translocation is like migration. You are physically moved out and your culture has changed. So globalization को ये तीनों का impact मिलेगा. We come more and more in contact with new cultures. When I say contact, not just physical contact, but also we are seeing things, we are hearing things. ये आपको music में दिखाई दे रहा है. You can see this impact on our internet, contagion effect. Okay, near and translocation, ये migration वाला हो गया. Okay, people moving out, people moving in, Indians in America, Indians in Southeast Asia, Australia. What happened? So talk about culture spread. The fourth aspect in culture we'll talk about is how is culture? Okay, creating or notions of identity issues क्या हैं? Culture and our notions of identity issues. इसको आप link करना होगा issues of conflicts के साथ, issues of insecurity के साथ. You have to discuss. So globalization culture I can see as an important theme. अच्छा, इसमें आप geography कहाँ ला रहे हैं? This is one element of geography. The culture का जो spread का process है, this is nothing but your diffusion of innovation, diffusion of ideas. यहाँ geography आया है. While talking about geography and culture environment, you're discussing environment theme. This is again a geographical perspective. Okay. इसके बाद whatever you're discussing, you will discuss. अच्छा, ये वाला part जो है life and development. Development is geographical concept. उसके बाद examples देना from the regions. What examples you have from the regions? Okay, some name of tribes, some name of dance form. जैसे कि example के form में, say food में, okay, you talk about continental, you can talk about Chinese influences. Okay, you can talk about influence of American foods, जो fast foods हैं. In terms of music, very specifically, you call this as what? You call this as K-pop, right? Okay, Korean music has catching up. Okay, music. You talk in terms of movies. Okay, please do mention how it has impacted Netflix and OTT platforms. Mein, what themes do we have? The themes of our movies. The themes. The one big change is the themes have moved from family-based stories towards more individual-based stories. Okay, so movies का impact है. आप example दे सकते हो cultures के impact में. Okay, urbanization process and the rise of the nuclear families. अगर आपने ये broad areas capture कर लिया है, and of course, do talk about migration. You cannot write more than this in 15-20 words. Food के बारे में examples दे देना. Music, mention 2 or 3 music. We also have the influence of Latin music. You find a lot of takers for Latin music. There's increase in the Western music. एक fusion cultures की बात करते हैं. Fusion culture. I mean, the best example of fusion culture is if you have seen some songs of the Coke Studios. Okay, Coke Studio में instruments हैं. So typical Sufi culture. There's also a traditional Rajasthani music plus the Western instruments. So here we'll say that there is a geographical element of location plus there are influences from outside. एक example उठाओ and discuss that maybe in a paragraph or so. So any culture in globalization पे आपका ये domain बन गया. ठीक है? अच्छा, इसके बाद आपको क्या करना है? I said location wise उठाओ आप. So you can talk about the map of India. Tell us how Rajasthan, you have got folk music and its popularization. Okay, you can always mention programs like Indian Idol. It has taken the music beyond the areas of Rajasthan. Okay, you can talk about the influence of music, influence of tribal musics. Tribal music, एक आपका ये जो है ना वो वाला क्या था वो Tibetan hymns का chanting. It also won the Grammy Award, if you know. It is a Tibetan chanting. This has gone global. There is a Grammy Award for this now. Okay, so acknowledgement. So ऐसे आपको एक दो उठा के you talk in terms of tribal art forms. इसका best example होगा कि our Prime Minister Modi ji, in every foreign visit, he makes it a point to showcase some aspect of Indian culture, be it the shawl, be it those handicrafts. अभी आपका बहुत discussion चल रहा है about the Gita press. Okay, so do talk about that tribal art, our traditional customs. ठीक है, pick examples from that. ये आपका broad form. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, of course, I forgot the dance. The Natu hai. Yes, going to Oscar and winning, it's no small deal. It's no small deal. ठीक है, तो ये आपका ingredients हैं. Okay, location, places. You'll have to talk about examples. ठीक है? So how does globalization impact? Now I'll give you in the form of an answer. ये सबको जोड़कर how you make an answer. That is our discussion here. ठीक है? So get back to your notes now. So I'm demonstrating this. इसको आप use कर सकते हो different ways. Write down here. Write down. Globalization and impact on Indian culture. Write down. Culture is a very important. Culture is a very important aspect of man-environment relationship. Culture is a very important aspect of man-environment relationship. And geography as the study of cultural landscape. Geography as the study of cultural landscape emphasizes how culture and the physical elements of nature, have been one of the core themes. Culture and the physical elements of the nature have been one of the core themes in geographical study. Culture is the essence of human geography. Culture is the essence of human geography. Put a hyphen. The most important determinant of man's interaction with nature. Man's interaction with nature. So within bracket, do mention these 3-4 points. We have Carl Saar's cultural landscape. Carl Saar's cultural landscape. Okay. Vidal and Radzel's genre de vie. Vidal and Radzel's genre de vie. Whittlesey's Compage. 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 Okay. Elements of culture in Varenius special geography. Elements of culture in Varenius special geography. And culture as the differentiator in the rise of humanistic approach in geography. Culture as the differentiator in the rise of humanistic approach in geography. Put a hyphen. We have geosophy and geography's culture turn. We have geosophy. I hope you know these terms. Geosophy and geography's culture turn, plus the more recent postmodern geography. The more recent postmodern geography. तो आपको मैंने जल्दी समराइज करा दिया कहां पर कल्चर्स हैं. इसको आप पूरा पैराग्राफ में मत लिखना. If in a bullet, put some points and be through with it. Next slide down. Globalization, although began as a trade and a finance-driven process, related to economic production, financial transactions, trans-border movements of goods, and the expansion of IT technology. This is what we see globalization as. Okay? Fundamental globalization यही है हमारा. Trade है, commerce है, monetary transactions हैं. Okay. But continue. But globalization includes all forms of interaction across regions of the world, all forms of interactions across the regions of the world. Put a hyphen, flow of ideas, influencing art forms, movement of migrants, and the impact on local geographies. Right, next. Globalization with rapid increase of rate and intensity of interactions. Rapid intensity of interaction through ICT and faster mobility has impacted culture tremendously in different parts of India. Examples of globalization impacting culture. Number one is change in food preferences. Okay, where Western and Chinese food are part of Indian range of cuisine. Pizza, noodles, continental choices. If you know about the names, baked beans, you've got sorted vegetables, salad culture. 3-4 names, comma ke chhod dena hai. Don't elaborate too much. Okay. Next, cuisine is impacted by temperate spices. Cuisine of India impacted by temperate spices. Okay. जो आपका मेडिटेरेनियन स्पाइस बेल्ट है, वहां से हमने 4 स्पाइसेस बड़ा कॉमनली यूज किया है. ओरेगैनो, parsley, rosemary, even olive extracts. आपको क्या करना है यहाँ पर? यहीं पर you show this. Okay, so you show this zone as the zone of temperate spices and its influence in India. Okay, so you're talking about parsley, talking about rosemary, oregano, okay, and also olive extracts. Olive is not typically a spice, but olive extracts is part of our cuisine. Okay, this is one example of globalization impacting us. Okay, ये cuisine में don't go beyond this. Cuisine में एक और map बनाना चाहें, so you can always add. Okay, for example, Middle East में or this part of Syria, a very important food choice is shawarma. Okay, it's a very popular dish across the country. You can always show Tibetan. India दिखाया आपने, so Tibetan region, you can always show the impact of momo and dim sum, typically Far East and Chinese हैं. So एक map में show how the cuisine has come into India. Okay? And I think the biggest export of India, this is the Indian side. The biggest export of India, I mean, ये question पूछा नहीं है, but you should know this. I think are your Mughlai dishes. I think the whole world knows butter chicken, if nothing else. The whole world knows the concept of chutney and curry, if nothing else. Okay, the tandoori. So 3-4 names diagram में छोड़ देना. So cuisine part is done. Globalization and cuisine. ठीक है? अच्छा. The second one is The second one is music. Music में, the fusion music is the product of globalization. So earlier what happened was, the fusion music was largely regional fusion music. Earlier, the fusion music was largely the regional fusion music. What I mean by this is, so northwest part mein, we had a lot of influence of Sufi, and Sufi inspired by Persian, by Central Asian, by Arabic influence, the northwestern part of India. So ये regional influence है. And we have the influence in the northeast. Northeast mein, the Tibetan music, Ladakh also has the impact of Tibetan music. Okay, so जैसे कि in this Sufi, the impact of the region can be seen in Persian language, can be seen in Punjabi language. There are Pushtun language. ये दिखता है यहाँ पर. There's one instrument called as rubab. Rubab is a Central Asian instrument like a guitar. R-U-B-A-B. B-A-B. Rubab is a Central Asian instrument. Okay, so this is very regional in nature. And वैसे if you look at Tibetan music inspired by Buddhism, Buddhism of the Tibetan origin. And Northeast में again you have the influence of Myanmar, influence of again Tibet Buddhism. ये music forms हैं. In music forms में a very important influence is the bell. Bell is a very important influence in music. The typical ringing of the bells. ठीक है? ये regional impact है. But the globalization, please draw the diagrams and so all of this. Okay? The globalization, the impact is more transcontinental. The globalization, the impact is more transcontinental. The impact of Western music, American hip hop, Western music, American hip hop, and Latin influence. I'm the music boulder, I'm keeping them together. I'm keeping dance, music, and movies together. So hip hop music, the breakdance type ka jo aula hip hop music, the Western music, the songs, okay, and the influence of the Americans. Okay. Now, iska example de dena, if you remember something. Okay, see, lot of new movies or lot of contemporary movies, okay, have influences of American and Latin and European culture, Latin American and European culture. So, aapka, just for sake of not in paragraph, diagram में दिखा देना. Diagram में the movies of Karan Johar, the movies of Farhan Akhtar. ये लगता नहीं है इनके स्कूल्स भी लगते हैं कि पता नहीं अमेरिका से आए होंगे सारे. ठीक है? I think the only grand Indian वाला तो है शायद. Okay, और संजय लीला बंसाली मेंटेन करते हैं. And that's true Indian. वो इंडियन भी हम देखे नहीं है. वो इंडियन भी कहाँ पर है पता नहीं. ठीक है? So that's done. So one आपने खेला cuisine पे, second खेला आपने music, art एक साथ हो गया. The third, talk about literature. इसका बहुत strong influence है literature. Okay. There is a dramatic rise of English literature, English writings. Now, English writings दो तरह के हैं. One is English writings that is trying to reflect and assert the Indianness of India's cultural history. Indianness of India's cultural history. So this is essentially like an assertion of Indian culture is a more important one. If you have read about the books of Devdutt Patnaik, the books of the books of Shantaram, they talk about, or Amitav Ghosh, ये एक है. और एक है rise of literature, literature that captures the trials, the challenges, and the confusion, challenge and confusions of Indian migrants. So basically writings about the Indians in the foreign lands. Writings about Indians in the foreign lands. And many of them are actually have been nominated for Booker Prize. To name two of them, what's that? Arundhati Roy doesn't write about that. She writes about very local. Huh? Arvind Adiga. Yes, Arvind Adiga. That lady's name मैं भूल जा रहा हूँ. Booker Prize nomination. Or Vikram Seth. Gitanjali Shri. I have not read her. I do not know. Fine, you can pick up some names here. So this is an example of how globalization and interaction. So these are writers who talk about the glory of. In fact, you can also add here William Dalrymple. William Dalrymple. So he talks about India's cultures, India's history, India's thinking, Indian philosophy, okay, Indian gods, Indian culture. They're asserting. So this is an example of, example hai where you're asserting Indian identity. और ये examples हैं, this shows confusion in India's mind. Are you Indian? Are you foreigner? The trauma of migrants, the trauma of, इसमें बहुत सारे, this is, in fact, this genre of book is also called as the migrant genre of books. They capture the turmoils of the migrants. Name is still playing in my mind. ठीक है, इतना लिखो आप पहले for now. Arvind Adiga, Vikram said. Okay, so this is literature, and then cultures में, impact of globalization में, you can talk about impact on religion, impact of religion. इसका भी वैसा ही दो impact है. The rise of cultural nationalism, the rise of cultural nationalism, the rise of cultural assertiveness, and there is an element of conflicts here. Conflicts. This on extreme side can also result in bigotry. Extreme form it can become bigotry. The concept of cultural superiority. Okay, ये emergence है. और एक side है the emergence of, again, the fusion cultures. Emergence of fusion cultures. A fusion cultures we can see in the tribal cultures. Okay, there is an rise of acceptance of Buddhism culture. There is a growing rise of atheism. Okay, there are religion mein, you have a new value systems. Like think of LGBT right. Okay, rights ke issues hai. It is from this there is emergence of individualism. So put this in a schematic and be through with it. How does globalization impact? Acha. Now geographically हम बात करेंगे. Geographically, religion का impact is not uniform in India. Impact of religion is not uniform in India. There is a regional variation in the impact. There is a regional variation impact. For example, a cultural nationalism, this is more a pattern of the Hindi belt of the north. This pattern is in the urban areas of India. In the cosmopolitan centers of India. Okay, so Gurgaon, to show the urban areas, Gurgaon, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune has seen more of this. This is still, okay, this is more in the tier 2 and the rural areas of India. Tier 2 and the rural areas of India. So geographically, now the religion impact, okay, is also impacted by levels of development in a society. Now development in terms of human development indicators. Okay, women empowerment, per capita income, education, employment. So this is largely seen in the upper middle class. Okay, also seen in the high net worth individuals. That's why this is seen more as an urban phenomenon. So I put a regional perspective to this. Iska consequence ye hai. The consequence is there is in India mein, there are emerging divides because of globalization's impact on culture. The emerging divides because of globalization's impact on culture. Ek aapka classic rural urban divide hai. Okay, that's one. The second divide is, okay, the north and south divide. Okay, the divide also in terms of the traditional Hindu religion versus the later religions. the later religions. Okay, so Islam, Christianity, they versus the traditional Hindu religions, which refer to as the Sanatan Dharma. These are divides that we have. Okay, now you can specifically mention the culture, the impact of globalization on the tribal cultures. Impact of globalization on the tribal cultures. Okay, so here you can take Northeast as a case study. Northeast as a case study. Before I go back, आप इसको एक बार ये वाला क्वेश्चन देखो आप. See how we were developing this. Okay, so we started with culture is man-environment relationship. We discussed briefly there. Culture in terms of new issues, gender issues, life development. आप इसको ऐड कर सकते हो. Idea of rights, LGBT rights, वो discuss किया हमने. How does culture spread? Contagion hierarchy can bring this in, and issues of ये conflicts हमने discuss कर लिया. I'm keeping the format in mind and then bringing in whatever points I can. Okay. Now come back to Northeast as a case study. The first point is that Northeast has been very heterogeneous. The Northeast has been very heterogeneous. Tribal identities, language identities, racial elements, tribal, language, racial elements are very diverse in the Northeast. Okay, that's one. The second is, despite the heterogeneity, because of the perceived impact of because of perceived impact of the foreign cultures, there is some element of mobilization for common identity. There's some element of mobilization for common identity. Jaise, despite differences, a common Ahom Assam culture is emerging. Despite differences, a common Ahom or Assam culture emerging, willing to conflict with non-Assamese. Assam में ना काफी diversity है. If you look at the map of Assam, something like this. This is the Bodo area, Kokrajhar Bodo area. This is the central Assam, Guwahati. This is upper Assam. Parts of Dibrugarh. This is part of Sibsagar. Jorhat. This is upper Assam. Upper Assam का बहुत अलग culture है. Upper Assam has more of influence of Tibeto-Mongoloids. Upper Assam has more of Tibeto-Mongoloids, whereas Lower Assam has more of Paleo-Mongoloids. The Lower Assam has more commonality with the Bengali population. But there is an element of Assam consolidation. Vis-a-vis, में foreigners. The foreigners could be anybody. It could be the Bangladeshis as foreigners. They see the Tripura population as foreigners. They see the Bengali population as foreigners. And they want to fight it back. That's one consolidation. A core example of consolidation है the Naga tribes. Naga tribes again are a heterogeneous population. Naga tribes are a heterogeneous population. But the perceived threats from Manipur, from Assam, and the porous borders with Myanmar, creates a common Naga culture. That's one case. Second, write about Manipur violence, globalization, an impact on Manipur's economy of the Manipur plains. Globalization, Impact of Manipur's economy and in the Manipur plains. So Manipur plains mein we have resource pressure. Manipur plains resource pressure. Manipur plains fears of invasion by non-Manipuris. Resource pressure hai, invasion by non-Manipuris. At same time, the perceived threats to the Manipur hill population. Cookies hai ya Nagas hai. The Manipur threats, the threats to the invasions of the hills and the Manipur conflicts. This is one write-up, one case study. Okay, Assam ka there is some kind of commonality in terms of identity, and Naga. Third, I talked of Manipur. The fourth example of impact is Northeast has been impacted by K-pop music. Korean pop music is big time. Nagaland mein, Arunachal Pradesh mein, okay, Manipur, and that is because of the racial similarities. That's because of the racial similarities. Otherwise, bearing the Mongoloid racial similarities, culturally, this part has nothing in common with Far East, China, or Korea. Okay, but there's influence of the Korean musics. Okay, that's one impact. Next is globalization has also impacted traditional family institutions. Globalization, Northeast mein, has impacted traditional family institutions. जैसे कि Khasis are matriarchal societies. Khasis are matriarchal societies, and so are some of the Naga tribes, and so are some of the Naga tribes. But impact of globalization, impact of media, impact of globalization, impact of media is reversing this. So, aap ye Northeast ka part, you must have a good sketch. So, this is Garo, Khasi, Jaintia Hills. This is the Assam part here. That's Tripura. This is Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, and Arunachal Pradesh, and Sikkim. So, आपको बना के दिखाना होगा. Garo, Khasi, Jaintia, Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, Nagaland, Assam, and Sikkim. So this part of ये जो Khasi region है, ये Khasi region ये वाला, and parts of Nagaland. These two have elements of matriarchal societies which are now changing. Yes, well, I was coming to that one. So Northeast cultures mein, in general, dowry was not the culture. Correct. Dowry was not a culture, but Northeast has seen decline in sex ratio. Northeast has seen increasing incidence of violence against women. Increased incidence of violence against women. Now, globalization ka jo positive impact hai in terms of education, in terms of development, it is maximum in Mizoram. It's maximum in Mizoram, partly because maybe of Mizoram's Christian society, and its identification with the Western world. Mizoram's Christian society and its identification with the Western world. Mizoram ka jo music systems hain, they also are around the Western music. Guitar and drums are very popular in Mizoram. So in entire Northeast, all the others are more about their cultural thing. This is going a bit more global, Mizoram. Arunachal Pradesh, of all the northeastern states, next point, of all the northeastern states, the more mainstream identity of Northeast with the rest of India, the more mainstream identity of the Northeast with the rest of India is with Arunachal Pradesh. Despite ekdam border areas mein hai, this identifies with rest of India much more than what others are identifying. Uska reason hai the impact of Hinduism in Arunachal Pradesh. The impact of Hinduism in Arunachal Pradesh. और एक ऐड करो, globalization, rise of China, and its impact on Northeast. Globalization, rise of China and its impact on Northeast. Largely, number one is attempts to increase the Tibetan influence in Arunachal Pradesh by China. Attempts to increase the influence of Tibetan Buddhism or Tibetan cultures in Arunachal Pradesh by China. And they have been trying this from this part of Tawang Valley. Ye wala part jo hai Tawang Valley. This is where they are asserting their influence. Okay. Culturally, there is increasing there are increasing conflict issues along the Arunachal Pradesh border regions. That's one impact. The second impact is Sikkim, this part is the Doklam region. This is the Doklam. Now, Doklam region has a valley called as Chumbi Valley. Doklam region, उसी के पास में we have Nathula Pass. Okay. लिखें ये points लिखें please. This is like this. This is the Doklam region. यहाँ पर आपका भूटान है. यहाँ पर दो passes हैं. We have Jelepla and we have Nathula. Jelepla and Nathula. And historically, this has been connected with the Chumbi Valley. Now, because of globalization and rise of China, the natural interaction with the Tibetans and Bhutanese population, has declined. Almost like the trade areas are now blocked here. There's no interaction here. That impacts the cultural diversity of this region. Impacting the cultural diversity of the region. The next is impact of globalization in the Northeast, in terms of cross-border drug trade with Myanmar. Cross-border illegal drug trade, opium trade with Myanmar. Again, the rising conflicts, drug abuse, substance abuse. So this is the format for the answer. So the question I had asked you was, critically examine the cultural aspect of globalization and its ramification for tribal cultures of Northeast India. तो आपको मैंने पहले एक general write-up दे दिया आपको. How does culture impact? How there are changes? And the second is this one. अच्छा, एक और आप add कर सकते हो in culture impact of Northeast India में, that Northeast India has lot of close tribal marriages, and very close tribal identities. But with globalization, there are incidences of marriage outside tribal communities. That impacts the composition of Northeast. This is more common in Assam. और एक इसी से एक लिंक ये है, as the infrastructure development, add कर लो मैं भी conclusion में, as the infrastructure development of the Northeast expands, with roadways, airways, okay, setting up of industries in the Northeast, the element of trans-cultural interactions will increase. The Bengal, Assam, and the Northeast impact बढ़ेगा. That's one. Second is Northeast is seen as the gateway for Southeast Asian cultures. India has seen a gateway towards the Southeast Asian cultures. आपको पता है ये look east policy और act east policy में क्या difference है? We are look east policy, I.K. Gujral. The act east policy is Mr. Modi, right? Difference क्या है? One big difference in act east policy is the element of culture. So we are increasingly projecting the commonality of Northeastern culture with Southeast Asia. Okay, be it through road connectivity, be it through trade connectivity. Okay, write down this point here. Under Act East policy, the Northeast is seen as a gateway towards Southeast Asia with its cultural elements. So Mongoloid racial diversity, the Buddhism beliefs, and the ethnic identities of Northeast with Southeast Asian cultures. Iska impact is yet to be seen. We are expecting कि हमारा वो जो गंगा Mekong plan है and the road connectivity to Cambodia, Vietnam will be done. So this element is yet to be seen. How does India's northeast respond to the cultures of Southeast Asia? ठीक है? So the first question is done. It's like case study, draw diagrams. Okay? अच्छा, तो अगर आपको क्वेश्चन सिर्फ कल्चर पे पूछेगा ना, अभी भी नॉर्थ ईस्ट उठाना एज ए केस स्टडी एंड आई हैव गिवन लॉट ऑफ कंटेंट. Squeeze what you can into a small, okay, maybe half a page with diagrams, okay, and with examples. Rajinder, let's not even go that way. वो dangerous वाला हो जाएगा. Anyway, talking about अखंड भारत, so okay, fine. Nepal is already upset with us. Okay, कि आपने दिखा दिया तो पार्ट ऑफ अखंड भारत. Let's see. And जो बच्चा कुछ था, प्रचंड ने बोल दिया, इंडिया ने हेल्प किया था उसको बनने के लिए प्राइम मिनिस्टर. I don't know why, I mean, कहाँ पे जाती है हम लोग को बुद्धि. Talking in Parliament of Nepal, you cannot say India helped you. It's almost like you are the stooge of India. Okay, so let's say some intelligence sensitivity we don't expect from politicians in any case. So anyways, the next question. Geography has undergone a paradigm shift. Geography has a paradigm shift from geoinformatics, towards an integrating approach. From geoinformatics towards integrating approach, bringing geography into a new paradigm. Geography has undergone a paradigm shift from geoinformatics towards an integrating approach, bringing geography into a new paradigm. Now, this, forget about the technical details of this, okay? So what I was doing is I'm looking into some, जो questions पूछते हैं ना, they sometimes ask directly from some research paper. So I saw this as one of the headings of a research paper. Okay? And then I read it was too technical, but let's see how we can use this. Okay. So what is asking us is कि geography moved into geoinformatics. From the geoinformatics, so geography कुछ था, geography changes, geography gets into geoinformatics, and because of this there is a new integrating approach, and this new approach is actually the basis of a new paradigm. आपको ये समझाना है. Okay, geography was something towards geoinformatics. अच्छा, now is geoinformatics है. Essentially, this is related to rise in ICT technology, rise in a remote sensing technology. It's based on the realization that Earth's surface can be mapped. We can map the Earth's surface, and we can map it in pretty good details. आप layer पे layer बना सकते हो. Layer of hydrology, layer of mineral resources, the layer related to terrain and topography, the layer related to probably vegetation. The layers बना सकते हैं, becomes the part of your information base. इससे something else happened, okay, and then it's a new paradigm. Okay, ये आपको समझाना है. Now listen, geoinformatics जो branch है ना, this is a very recent branch. Recent का मतलब है 1970s and 1980s onwards, this has taken off. Okay, a very big important role was the rise of ICT, computer tools, mapping tools, CAD tools, and remote sensing. इसके बिना ये नहीं बन पाएगा. You got very sophisticated cameras, sophisticated sensors. We have computerized mapping techniques. Okay, we have Earth analysis. Okay, satellites. Okay, so this is a very new thing, informatics. Now, what this does is it gives us an enormous range of information about places. Okay, geoinformatics is a very new branch of geography. ICT, computers, remote sensing. It uses satellite technology. It uses sensors, and all of this gives us a very wide range of information about places. Achha. Now, this information is mapped is mapped as data layers. आपके पास अलग-अलग एक जगह का layer बन जाएगा. There are different layers on which you can map this. This could be a layer of only the terrain. This could be the layer of, I said, hydrology. This could be the layer of maybe vegetation. I can have another layer, okay, about the mineral resources. They can be mapped as data layers. Okay? Now, this information was largely disaggregate information. They are disaggregate information. Okay, this in some ways is a very advanced level of a quantification based geographical study. A very advanced level of quantification based geographical study. Some have seen this, okay, some have seen this like an extension of the quantitative revolution. It is seen as an extension of the quantitative revolution. Please, ऐसे diagrams, maps बनाएं, okay? One example of geoinformatics is the data on your Google Maps, okay? Restaurant, petrol pumps, tourist spots, कहाँ traffic है, सब अलग-अलग layers में. You can pick and choose what you want to see, right? अलग-अलग layers. Example of geoinformatics is, okay, your Google Maps. Achha. Now what I'm saying is that from this, there was a new approach which was integrative. Okay. Now the realization. Now with this, what happened was the next step. With rise in geoinformatics, there has been a conscious effort to integrate all information, and to represent a region in totality, and not merely disaggregate set of maps, and not merely in terms of disaggregated set of maps. इससे क्या हुआ? What happened in this was geoinformatics data was overlain with cultural maps, overlain with development maps, In recent times, okay, there has been addition of disaster vulnerability maps, and the need to study all of this in an integrated way, in a more integrated way. The initial geoinformatics was more about the physical diversity of a region. But now, as a part of integrative approach, there is simultaneous analysis of ecological, economic, political and cultural elements. Okay, so हमारा क्या है? It is initial geoinformatics में there is data collection, there is data analysis, and there is data spatial depiction. आप डेटा कर रहे हो कलेक्ट, आप डेटा एनालाइज कर रहे हो, और डेटा को आप स्पेशली डिपिक्ट कर रहे हो, डेटा स्पेशल डिपिक्शन. एंड ये जो डेटा कलेक्शन है, this collection is largely on the physical information. It's largely the physical information. This is the initial geoinformatics. Now we have the new geographical mapping. In this, जो आपका data collection है, this data collection and this data analysis. This collection includes economic, it includes cultural, it includes technological, it includes political data also, it includes environment data also. The initial geoinformatics was more around the physical data. The new data analysis is more integrative, and with this analysis, this is into spatial maps, Okay, and this is seen as input to development and problem solving. Input to development and problem solving, जो कि इधर इतना ज्यादा नहीं था. Okay, so the geoinformatics का जो culture है, it has now shifted towards the new geographical mapping. The new geographical mapping is, okay, all the subjects from the maps you have gone towards, okay, importance of development and problem solving in geography. So ये जो new approach है, this new approach, इसके 3 new features. Okay, so this approach, this is more about data and information collection. This is a lesser applied approach. This is more of a specialized approach. Okay, the data scientist बहुत अलग type के specialized approach है, and it's lesser applied. आप data ले रहे हो, typically it is the ideographic approach. आप data ले रहे हो but not integrating it. It's the ideographic approach. ये जो new paradigm है, the new paradigm is, now this is like I said, this is the consequence of, okay, the applied approach. This is more applied approach. So is applied approach ka one very important element is the geography is now more integrative. Geography is now more integrative. Geography is now more interdisciplinary. Geography is more integrative. Geography is more interdisciplinary. Geography is more development oriented. Development and asset problem solving oriented. So this has become the new paradigm in geography. Your approach is now, okay, the new paradigm, something like under the new paradigm, look up, under the new paradigm of geography, under the new paradigm in geography, geography is an integrative science. Geography is an integrative science. Integrative science. Geography integrates the physical with the cultural. Geography integrates the physical with the cultural. Geography integrates diverse disciplines. Geography integrates diverse disciplines, and geography is more local area, development oriented. Is more local area, development oriented. Okay? The question again, geography has undergone a new paradigm shift. ये जो change हुआ है, it's almost like a new paradigm shift. Okay, अब देखो, ये question directly नहीं पूछेगा. Okay, if they ask, very nice, but at least you know how geography is changing. Okay, use this concept in any environment geography answer. How geoinformatics, environmental problems, mapping towards problem solving. अब वहां use कर सकते हैं आप. You can use this when commenting on quantitative revolution, how things have changed in geography. You can use this as a part of radical revolution, applied revolution, how geoinformatics has now moved on towards, again, problem solving. This can be a very important, good, nice answer, okay, in geography and, okay, the science of integration, geographical thought mein. Okay, so use this in that sense. Okay, because say abhi tak officially we recognize that geography has had 2 paradigms and maybe a 3rd paradigm. The 2 paradigms was, the first one was the your environmental determinism, Ratzel wala, wo pehla paradigm hai. The second paradigm is the QR phase. 3rd paradigm probably is environmentalism. But now we say even this could become a new paradigm in geography, where problem solving, and more importantly, problem solving with the integrated approach. Kaise use karna hai? Now you can play around with it. Okay. So we are done with question number 2. The next one, radicalism reduces. Question likho aap. Radicalism reduces human beings to passive existence. Radicalism reduces human beings to passive existence in the field of historical and cultural determinism. Reduces human beings to passive existence in the field of historical and cultural determinism. If you look at last 3-4 year questions mein, okay, radical geography, Marxist pe 2-3 questions hain. खासकर the one that they asked you about the social dialecticalism पूछा आपका एक बार. Okay, so this is an important range of questions they keep asking. Okay, Marxism पे. So keeping that in mind, I have framed this question. Okay, so अब revise करें तो pay attention to radical geography. Now what the question is asking you is कि radicalism, खासकर the Marxist approach, it is a very passive approach. Passive का मतलब क्या है? Man is not an active agent of thinking. Man can't choose. Man can't decide. Man does not have a free will. Man is more like a slave. That's the idea of passive one. Okay. This is what was the older environmental determinism. Man cannot think. Man reacts to stimuli. Okay. The concept of ontology, the Darwinian stimulus response wala jo tha. Okay. Man is passive. Man is like any other biological being. Okay, reacting to stimulus around him. Okay, then comes possibilism. No, man does not blindly react. Man thinks. Okay, man has choices. The choices are determined by his culture. Okay, man has a mind that has insight. There's a perceived thing also. Hum sochte hain and then we do things. So that way, man was seen in the more positive light. But when the radical Marxism started, again there's an element of man can't think, that man is always a slave of the capitalist system. No matter what you do, the society is divided into haves and haves not. No matter you do, there will be exploitation and man will respond in a very violent way. The rule is there will be a revolutionary backlash, violence, and then you'll have communism. So here's the idea hai, that man is a product of history rather than man creating history. Man is a product of how modes of production have changed. अपने आप change हो रहा है technology, अपने आप change हो रहा है methods of production, अपने आप change हो रहा है who owns and who is deprived. Man is like a passive animal and man is again reacting. Man का land छिन गया, man का job चला गया, mechanical responses, let me multiply. I have more skill set and I multiply. ये जो idea है, and in radicalism, in Marxism, there is no role of culture, there is no role of religion, there is no role of a man's intellect. Man is a product of history. Whatever we have, we are the product of the dialectical conflicts in history between the haves and the haves not. That's what we say as a type of another determinism. In fact, I think aap log ke notes mein, some of you would have this. We have called Marxism as an example of historical determinism. That man is a product of how history will shape him and not he shaping the history. That's what the question is asking you. The radical geography is a type of passive existence of man in the historical and structural. Whatever man does is a consequence of the structural difference, haves and haves not, rich and the poor, the owner and the worker. Isi ka conflict, man is the consequence. His structure decides whatever we have around us. Is it okay, all of you here? Let's write down now. Write down. Write as points. Okay. The first point here is initially geography studied man-environment relationship. Initially, geography studied man-environment relationship from the perspective of environmental determinism. From the perspective of environmental determinism. That is, man as a passive reactor to environmental. Man as a passive reactor to reaction to environmental stimulus. Put hyphen. An extension of the concept of ontography. An extension in the concept of ontography. Ontography is man reacts to the environment like any other animal. That's one. The second point, possibilism was more of a positive interpretation. Possibilism was more of a positive interpretation of man's choices, decision making, man's decision making as a function of his culture, as a function of his cultural preferences, rather than a mechanical reaction. Next slide down. Next slide down. The rise of behavioral geography, the rise of behavioral geography and humanistic geography, the rise of behavioral geography and humanistic geography gave a more central role to man as a thinking agent, a central role to man as a thinking agent. But this version of man in geographical context, but this version of man in the geographical context was challenged by radicalism and the influence of Marxist philosophy. Radicalism and influence of Marxist philosophy in geography. Radicalism approach was all about, radicalism approach was all about, number one, man and his choices, influenced by historical changes in modes of production. Man and his choices in the historical change in the modes of production. Within bracket, history was seen more linearly. एक line चल रहा है. History was seen more linearly and not shaped by man. It's like a background में चल रहा है and man is getting impacted. That's all. Number two, a human society. Number two is human society as a product of clashes and conflicts. Product of clash and conflict. This is called as the dialectical approach. D-I-A-L-E-C. When I use the word dialectical, dialect मतलब होता है दो opposite fighting. This is the dialectical approach of societal structure in terms of rich and poor, in terms of haves and haves not, in terms of owners and workers, Okay, society में जो कुछ भी हो रहा है यही झगड़ा है. Nothing else. Next slide down. In radicalism, all problems were attributed to capitalism. And its overthrow was seen as a solution to all human miseries. This approach is very dogmatic. This approach is very dogmatic. Dogmatic का मतलब क्या है? Very staunch and a very extreme idea, fixed idea. Okay. Dogmatic is something जो flexible नहीं है. Dogmatic as in what? In terms of inflexible thinking, in terms of a rigid idea. This is a dogmatic conclusion. Therefore, radicalism does not give much scope to a human innovation, a human thinking, a human active decision making. Innovation, human thinking, human active decision making. Man is passive responder to the historical process of economic evolution. Therefore, radicalism is like historical determinism. अब question दोबारा पढ़ो. Okay, radicalism reduces human beings to passive existence in the field of historical and structural determinism. Comment. So while it's a very new approach where we are seeing everything from the socio-political angle, but the fact is this approach is treating man as a very, very mechanical person. Okay, आपको लड़ना पड़ेगा. You will have inequalities. Okay, economies will change. The only solution is you must fight back. It will be a very violent revolution. The entire history is seen as conflicts. Okay, as if history में बस यही है. Okay, dialectical conflicts. You will clash. A new idea again clash, and that's how it continues. That's why it is a very passive existence in the field of historical and structural determinism. So I can see this a possible input to questions on radical or Marxist geography. इसमें पूछे हैं questions ला 2-3 बार. Okay, the next question. Next question लिखो आप. I'm leaving one of them for now. Okay, it's a very tricky one. You already have scared me. Okay, L2, L3 करके. So I'm taking another question. लिखो आप, question लिखो आप. Areal differentiation provides. Yes, Ayush. Yes. When I say radicalism, I am referring to Marxist geography. Yes, Ayush. Okay. So areal differentiation provides a useful tool for regional planning, economic and cultural analysis. Areal differentiation provides a useful tool for regional planning, economic and cultural analysis. Critically discuss. This, I presume, आपको अपने आप इसका आंसर, you have to think through this. ये क्या question पूछ रहा है? I'll give you some time to think on this. Areal differentiation provides a useful tool for regional planning, for economic and cultural analysis. Critically discuss. As a statements, remember, it's never black and white. You cannot say yes, entirely yes, and you cannot dismiss either. हमेशा discussions में हमेशा वो कहीं बीच वाला होता है. Yes, but something, no, but something. वो yes, but something, और वो no, but something क्या है? That's what you have to discuss. And why is it saying so? Why that but part is coming up? So can you tell me, how is it a tool for planning? Anybody? What does it do? There are 3-4 things. Why we say regional differentiation is useful for regional planning. Anybody? Yes? Okay, fine. ठीक है. You can find disparities, differences, analyze region's uniqueness. Okay, fine. What are the unique resources? You can map it. Okay. देखो 3 word है ना. Areal differentiation is the study of variations and uniqueness of a place. Areal differentiation is the study of cause-effect relationship of a place in a place. How is land linked to rainfall, rainfall linked to agriculture, agriculture linked to some other issues, how floods, droughts, सब linkages जो हैं. Areal differentiation focuses on the linkages. Areal differentiation में, okay, it is not thematic, remember? It is more integrative. Different themes मिला के करता है. Areal differentiation is interdisciplinary. Areal differentiation, okay, is cause-effect relationship. So that ways we can say it's a good insight into planning. It focuses on a region and the details of a region. Therefore, we can have planning. It is an objective study, an accurate description, okay, not a speculative one. Therefore, we can study. Or yahi idea somewhere, even Varenius said, the special geography is a raw material, okay, on which general geography can be built. ये raw material क्या है? वो local information है, local analysis है, local resources का understanding है. Therefore, we can go for planning. Fine, all of you? So areal is the first part. Yes, you're right. Descriptive है, positivist है. It's empirical, correct, based on observations, not simply any fantasy. It is positivist. So लिखो first point. Yes, areal differentiation is a useful tool in regional planning. It is a useful tool in regional planning. It's a useful tool in economic analysis. Because number one, it studies the uniqueness of a place. It studies the uniqueness of a place. It can help identify the unique resource base of a place. Identify unique resource base of a place. It helps appreciate the cause-effect relationship between elements of a place, of a region. Appreciate the cause-effect relationship of elements of a region. It is an accurate, okay, it is an accurate description of details of a place. It is not far away from reality. It is empirical. It is very realistic about a region. Areal differentiation is comparative in approach. ऐसा क्यों है, वहां क्या है, वहां ऐसा क्यों है. It is comparative in approach. ठीक? So all of this can become inputs in planning. All of this information becomes an input in planning. वो बताया आपको, areal differentiation is integrative. It is not thematic. Okay, so that way it's holistic. Achha, now the other part. What are the other limitations because of which it cannot be a regional planning tool? Got discussed. I'll say yes, true for these reasons, but then there are challenges because of these reasons. Anybody? Anybody? Why is areal differentiation? Yes, very nice, Manas. Yes. That's the most important point. Because it is positivist, it is ignoring the cultural elements of the region. It does not account for culture, belief, the human reality in terms of thinking, in terms of belief systems. It is positivist. Okay? Uske baad, it is too idiographic. It is too idiographic, which means every region needs to develop its own model. It needs to develop its own model. Therefore, it is tedious process. Har area ka alag-alag model. Therefore, it is a tedious process. Okay. There are no generalizations. There are no laws which can be replicated. Now, in modern context, any planning must include environmental problems. It must include environmental vulnerabilities. Okay. Or this was 1930s, 40s की बात हो रही है. Environmental sensitivity is still very low. Deforestation problems, problems of water scarcity, problems of environmental disasters, ये सब concepts are not a part of areal differentiation. That's why areal difference in itself is not applied. Areal differentiation in itself is not applied. Again, areal differentiation जब develop हो रहा था, in initial phase of areal differentiation, the concept of development itself was a very weak concept. The concept of development itself was not well developed. So, अगर planning करते भी हो, planning for what? You have not defined what development is. ठीक है? एक और aspect. Areal differentiation में, see, any regional planning is about decision making. It's about mobilization of the political processes. You cannot have any planning that ignores the political reality. Or areal differentiation में, geography had still not ventured into the political study of regions. Political approach तो बहुत बाद में आया ना, 70s के बाद आया. Geography is not interdisciplinary. तीन चार point में for a practical valid regional planning, economic and cultural analysis, geography should be appreciative of. Geography should be appreciative of, I'm summarizing, the concept of development, the political process of decision making, and delegation. The political process of decision making and delegation. Third, mapping of resources, and not merely mapping of the physical elements, Okay. Number 4, it must account for participative approaches, which was a much later concept in geography. Number 5, it ignores environmental sustainability. Is a baad mein concept aaya. So if what you can do is, if you remember, there are certain themes of principles of regional planning. Yaad aa raha hai kuch? Okay. There are some principles of regional planning. Horizontal unity, vertical unity, grassroots relevance, environmental sustainability, financial feasibility, ये सब elements हैं. Okay. Until that you have done, you will not have the relevance of areal differentiation. So areal differentiation probably can be the first initial stage, but not really in itself. The point here is areal differentiation, therefore, can be an initiation, for regional planning and economic analysis, but not in its classical form. It must include the modern principles of regional planning, that is interdisciplinary with political, economic, environmental, and financial aspects. Is it okay, all of you? So with this, we have covered some elements of QR, we've covered some elements of radical geography, and covered some elements of areal differentiation.